Hey guys, it's 1:30 a.m. I've just shaved my face and I've removed this poly piece. Last you saw me put this on, I just pre-glued it and shoved it on my head. But even now at 1:30 a.m. it's 30 degrees Celsius. Today is going to be 40 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty hot. This hairpiece is now 4.5, 5 weeks old. I could just clean it and put it back on again, but I get the feeling that poly is always going to have that sweating and then lifting because of all the sweat that's building up underneath it. I never went ahead and punctured heat chimneys, little holes with a needle all through it. That might have helped. But I thought now I'll just go ahead and try out this lace piece again for the first time in a long time. So I've pre-glued my head down to about 3/4 of the way of where this will land, hopefully. And I'm just going to do the old is lace sticking through the netting check. You guys might have thought that I was going to wear poly for the rest of my life. I said I might. But in this sweaty heat, I guess the hair is falling forward, and when you're hot, you want to push the hair back out of your face. And because there's so much sweat built up underneath the poly, when you do that, you're peeling this back a bit. Now I know there are constant problems in hairline maintenance with lace, but I just want to see what it feels like, you know. I get the feeling that, well, it's going to breathe better, obviously. And also I kind of miss it a little bit. Poly is extremely low maintenance. But even just doing this, even though I wet this lace piece about 30 minutes ago, it's already started to dry out, and yet even so it's still easy. And this is seemingly thin. I think this is French lace rather than Swiss lace. And I can feel it's just a lot easier in the initial setting up period to stretch into position and see what you're doing when you're putting it on. I can't see exactly if it's lined up straight with any hairpiece. Until I brush it back and have a look. You can already see the massive amount of scalp that's visible through this hairpiece compared to poly. These are knots, very well bleached knots, which is essential if you're going to wear lace, compared to the V-lips of the poly. I'm just wondering if it is actually cut big enough to reach where I want it to go, which is just above that nub right there, right down to, well, I really had to stretch to get it down there. I think it isn't big enough, because the last time I cut out lace pieces, this one I cut out must have been months ago. I used an old stencil, and since then I've shaved more of my natural hairs back to make sure that there are no gaps up here at the tops of the peak. So I ended up making a bigger stencil, and I think this is one of the smaller stencil cuts, so it might not actually make it all the way down to the front where I want it to be. Just want to check initially here now that at least straight. This is water. So I'm sorry, I don't know if this is Swiss lace or French lace. It could be Swiss lace because it's just so nice and silky in the base where I'm trying to line it up. So I'm just trying to see the stubble from my natural hair. It comes all the way down to there, which is just above that nub. So this is falling about 1 centimetre too high. And as you can see, there are hairs from the messy lace that have come over and are full. I've got to tell you, the lighting on this phone is making me look ghost white. I look yellow in the mirror. So that gives you an idea of how off color and low resolution your visibility is right now. So I'm sorry about the camera quality. Can you even see what's happening here? I get a feeling that you can't see anything that I'm doing. I can see very clearly in the mirror what's happening. But when I look on the screen, it looks like you're not able to see anything that's going on. Anyway, there are a whole heap of little hairs that have come out through the base of the lace, through the underside of the lace. So obviously when you put glue on there, hairs come through when you've stuck them through. I'm going to pull any ones that are protruding off the back before I stick it back on my head again. I'm hoping that there's a little bit of leeway up at the top where the bio hairs meet my scalp, so that I can bring this down a bit so that it meets the hairline. It's a bit doubtful, but if I look at the poly unit and the lace unit side by side, they kind of seem a little bit similar in size, don't they? In terms of the length. Is there an extra bit of length on that? The lace actually looks, well, wider. It doesn't look like there should be a problem. Just want to make sure I line it up properly. It's got to really wet the hairs to maximize the visibility and ease of application. I'm just going to brush them in the direction they need to fall. I'm placing the hairpiece on my knee, brushing it. By the way, don't let the alcohol fall into your eyes, it really stings. Okay. That's how I'm looking at it, trying to get those side edges lined nicely. I don't really want a gap up there, but then again I don't really want a high forehead either. want to start by just brushing these back section here, and then I'll stretch down the front as much as I can. So compared to sticking the poly down, this is a lot more time consuming. And I'm going to do this in 3 stages of gluing. As you can see, I've already put 1 down. The second stage will get me closer to the front edge. And I guess I'm back to the olden days where I have to really be careful not to get any glue on the lace. As you know, if this was poly, I could just go straight onto the base with the glue. A bit worried though, because I'm sweating quite a lot in this room. If it's 30 degrees outside where there's a breeze and everything, this room would be about 35, 40 degrees. And if you're from America and people don't speak in terms of Fahrenheit for you worldwide, I assume you guys have just had to learn how to translate Middle Age imperial measurements with into what the rest of the world is using as you communicate with international people and watch international videos and stuff. Because Celsius is the world standard in temperature measuring. Nobody uses Fahrenheit. So I assume you've had to kind of learn how to adapt. If you haven't, I don't know what you're doing. You must only surround yourself with American things, but then again, you're watching me and I'm from Australia, so you're not that close-minded. Although you do kind of have that reputation. Not that all Americans are the same, but most people's personalities and mindsets consist of about 30% of their culture. Unless you're totally broken apart from society and you become an individual, which would have meant isolation or a lot of travel. So there's some guesswork involved in pasting this down to the point. But I'm not trying to get it exact right now. I'm just trying to get approximate. And also I'm trying to leave a little bit where he's not glued. It's better to have a little bit not glued than glue too far and try to get rid of that. It's so hard, messy, and goes black in a big black line all along the border instead of a seamless scalp to hair with graduation. Yeah. I might have to edit this for you because I don't want to stand here and talk to you for 15 minutes. Besides, there's air conditioning in the other room where this has got more of a chance of survival. I'll just leave this recording and I'll maybe edit. Or, how about you edit? 15 minutes, 20. Fast forward to when you see my movement again. I'm back. Been watching Mortal Engines. It's a good movie. Hugo Weaving's hairpiece looks really good. There's another guy in that movie, he's got a really bad hairpiece. I saw a guy, an old man, his hairpiece was just on like this. He didn't give a shit. He was at Big Roads trying to get his car sorted or whatever. But yeah, his hairpiece was all like it just been stuffed in a box overnight, and he just stuffed it back on and just walked out the door. It was a wig, it wasn't a hairpiece. It looked really bad. Yeah, there's no that'll do with this not being dried properly with lace, because if you haven't dried it properly, it'll go through the lace into the hairs and they'll get all clumped and ruined. So you really got to make sure it's just tacky and dried out. I've explained what dried out means. People say the word dry with glue. It's not dry. It's just tacky, right? But it's not coming up in a string anymore. So this should be the second last part of the gluing, and then I'll do the very front part of the hairline now. First I'll get this into position, and then because this is so close to where it will eventually be, I'll be able to just guess nicely where to paste that last bit of glue. Because unlike with a poly hairpiece, which is super easy, you just glue onto the hairpiece itself and then drop it down and that's it. With lace, you've got to guess. Good. I didn't glue past. Yeah, good. There's no glue there. But that was dead on accurate. All of that. So I guess that bit's done. That makes my job easier. Yeah, you can look at Hugo Weaving just now gave me the inspiration to try out lace again. I'm just worried about the shine coming through when it melts in hot weather. I'll need Q-tips again. Haven't used them for a while. This glue is freshly opened. As you can see, it's not all messed up around there yet. So it's got the very stringy new, that's another problem with the packaging here. See, the lid was just broken in half. Shove it back in without getting shit all over my hands. This stuff, the glue, I could walk 5 meters and there'd still be a string of glue, Walker Tape Ultra Hold. There's still a string from the bottle over there, like a gigantic spider's web. And it just doesn't break. It's amazing. It's annoyingly messy. Okay. So, well, now that I've got this out already, I'm going to put the get bits of hair and stuff off your fingers and everything before you do it. Otherwise, it'll land onto your hairpiece and get wrapped up in the glue and everything. gone way past. Also, I feel this layer of glue that I'm pasting on with this Q-tip is not thick enough. If the glue's too thin, it won't have the layer thickness for the netting to sink in and get locked into position. So you really do have to make sure that the front hairline glue is thick. And as you can see, I put a clump of glue on the lace, but there's no way to get that off now. It's too late, I've blocked it. Hopefully it'll be unnoticeable. Also make sure it's not corrugated in any way. Make sure that the brush is free from hairs. Before you put it back on, and make sure you don't leave the lid off for too long. Also, it's better to have clean hands before touching the bottle, otherwise it's just going to have glue all over it. Get covered in hairs that are stuck to it forever. It's just too hard to clean. Clean your fingers as well. So because I've surpassed where the hair's going to land, I'm going to try to clean this off as best I can, because I won't have this kind of access once the hair's being pushed down. This will still be sticky and get dirt clinging to it, but I'm just trying to take the bulk of it off. There may be a tiny bit of extra glue that I've got to add over the next few days. I'm not looking forward to the cleanup and hairline maintenance that comes with lace, but I'm looking forward to the lack of sweat buildup. Any sweat that comes through will evaporate. The heat release from the lace will not cause that much sweat as well. So I'll go back into the air-conditioned room now and I'm sorry, I'll let you fast forward through this again. Oh, sorry, I was watching a movie. I forgot about you. 49 minutes. I guess I left you there for a while. Okay, I'll be fast forwarded. What are you looking at over here? A wall? Alright, here we go. Okay. Should be dry. So, over here, I glued too low. Just going to spray some water on that. And thus begins the cleanup. The entire time I'll be wearing the lace. It's going to keep going and going and going. There's always going to be bits of glue. Just down at the front hairline like this. Constant cleaning up. I've never mastered the cleanup process with lace. That's why poly was a godsend for me. It always looks good on the first day, the lace. As long as the roots are bleached properly. Like these ones are pretty good. Bit of a chunk there that's got a black bit there. I just pulled it out. That black bit there. And you can see the glue shining through. Yeah, so probably better if you do use something that's completely dry. I mean, Booker Tape Ultra Hold is not good. It is a very melty glue and is very shiny. So if you do know how to use something like Ghost Bond, potentially that's less shiny. I just didn't want to have to deal with it today. It's a pain in the ass and I've never really got it to work properly. Make sure there are no hairs sitting on the glue line across there. That hairline seems quite wrong. Too high maybe. Well, once I've cut it, it'll be okay, maybe. This is a lot lower density than the V-loops, which gives it a bit more realism, so long as the glue doesn't shine through too much. Oh, it's really thin. just looking at the density of this hair here, it feels like this is medium light density, but I know it's not the lightest density. It's more like medium density, and the poly seems like a bit like medium heavy density. You look like comparison a little bit. And it's really sitting very light on my head, as if these hairs were taken from a European maybe, but I know they weren't. It's just really nice hair. Maybe from somebody who was younger or something. You can see how low density it is. I'll put some muck in it. Go with a brushed back look. I'm not going out. A little bit concerned with the shape of the hairline, the contour, and the height of it. I think it should be down to about there. Also, I totally shaved and shortened my sideburns up to here, which I don't know if it suits me that well. I'm looking forward to the lack of sweat. I've been using an orbital each day to try and lose weight for the last 2 days, each day. Put the lid back on the muck. What do you think of the hairline? That was the poly. So poly, okay, just given that it's back a little bit, probably just show you there. That's what the poly hairline looks like. You see? With the bleach knots. Can you see that? That's what poly looks like at the front hairline. And then lace. Which you prefer? Just want to make sure you get a real good close up of that. Okay, so this is the lace hairline against skin. I'm trying to tap on the screen here a bit to get some darkness to it because I think it's a bit overexposed. How's that? It's lace. And now this is poly. So you can see the line there. Got to be pressed in a bit so it's not as visible. And my very buffy hair at the back. Should probably be cut short. It sticks out too far. But my hair's not going to stay like this when it's dry. Yeah, it doesn't feel like I've got a hairpiece that is cut low enough. More down there. And so it's good to demonstrate that, and we'll soon see how annoying it is to be using lace again, or if it'll be a relief not to have to deal with that sweaty poly kind of wanting to lift off. But yeah, I'm in for a lot more maintenance with this. There you go, that's lace.